Yeah, I don't know, but the technology is so readily available. So
Hmm.
now, like, we're living in a 2-minute bubble where like
Yeah,
everybody's like
it's true.
not entertained in 10 seconds and moving on.
Yeah.
So the situation is people are taking the knowledge, not, I'm saying majority of people are taking, they're taking it for granted. And like, I remember digging, looking for VHS tapes, trying to get like even beta tapes of like, old school breaking and like
Hmm.
just learn.
Hmm.
Like, I couldn't even meet these people because I never thought about traveling when I was a kid. I
Hmm.
thought about like, oh, I gotta get that VHS so I could see what that guy did, or like I
Yeah.
heard this battle was crazy, and it was it's like something in the mindset of people, like as soon as something's hard to attain, I gotta have it.
What a sick ass click. 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 Yeah. One day at a time, stay in line while I'm aiming for mine.
Right.
Came from the pavement, made our way to the sky, debating it. Got the paper from the craziest grind. Ain't it design or destiny? Ain't it the signs, the recipe? No, the rest of me created the shine that made.
Okay, everybody, we're here with Complex from Dance Brooms and Hoods. Complex
What's up?
is yeah, one of my fellow Canadians now. Have been for a while.
Canadian
But you're also part of
slash US.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll forget about that. But Complex is also a member of a very exclusive club that very few people are a member of. And you have a very special ring. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, you brought yours out. Holy shit. You should have told me. I would have
No,
got
no,
mine.
no.
What?
It's just sitting over there. I leave it. I just leave it there
I
as a
actually,
reminder.
yeah, I had mine up on the shelf with some other trophies, I guess. And then
Yeah.
I care about so much I actually lock it up now. So
Oh, yeah.
I keep it locked up with my other jewelry.
For people who can't see what we're talking about, it's the Massive Monkey Day Footwork Championship champion four-fingered ring, which I think
Yeah.
there's only a few people that have that.
Yeah, it's
Me, you, box cutter, Jay, I think.
yeah.
Jay, whatever, from France. Zeshin,
Oh, yeah.
free.
He was the last one, right?
Yeah.
For,
And then
technically free, I think has like two, but like they
I
didn't
think
have
he has like
rings
two
when
or
they first.
three. Like, he should
Yeah,
have two or three.
he is like two or three, but like I think he only got one because they didn't have the rings back then. It
Yeah.
was like they didn't start doing that till later.
Who else
But
is
free is definitely like OG
yeah.
footwork champ.
I think there's Profo
Of course, Profo,
and
yeah.
then didn't that guy Battleborn guy, I forget his name. ATN?
ATN?
Did he win?
Oh, ATN,
Maybe he
ATN.
lost to Profo or something like that. Was that the year? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but I remember he had a really good battle actually with your crewmate,
Rory,
with
right?
Rory. Whew, that battle was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's a lot of good
I was pretty
memories
hyped.
of Massive Monkey Day footwork battles and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely like a nerdy category. So
yeah,
like,
for sure. I think I think they do it. I don't know. They make it. I don't know how they did it, but like, and maybe it's my own personal bias of just being in the Northwest and always participating in it. But I feel like they do a really good job of like hyping it up as like something special and getting people like the general audience to kind of like understand what they're watching is something interesting and difficult and challenging in its own way. And yeah, like just talking to
yeah,
Joe Rock previously, he was talking about like that one time when I think like Heat Rock was doing a round to like get into the top 8. There was like a tiebreaker, and he just did this crazy his footwork, but the crowd went nuts for it, like as if he had done like this crazy blow up like leg behind his head while spinning on his tongue or something like that, or whatever.
With like 2 backflips, right?
With like, yeah, double backflip while doing all of that. And it was just footwork.
Yeah. I mean, it's also energy, right?
Yeah,
when you have the hosts and the crew, like kind of like being the advocates and like, you know, hyping the crowd of non-dancers and be like, yo, you don't understand, this is crazy, like you can't do this, you need to make some noise. And it's like you kind of feel the adrenaline. And Heat Rock in general, you know, shout out to him, he always brings a lot of energy, even with like just his top rocks. Like he's a phenomenal dancer. So
I just realized I forgot to do this, but for anyone who doesn't know who you are, like, or just wants to get to know you a little deeper, do you mind doing just like a little introduction or whatever you want to say about yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Just for the people.
For the people. I guess a lot of people know me as Complex. My real name's Ash. Some people call me Complex Ash. You know, Ash is fine. Unless I don't know you, it's Complex. No, I'm just fine. I've been dancing for like 22, 23 years. And for the most part, it's been like Pacific Northwest. That's where my roots from dance started. I helped be a part of the scene also by contributing and building two crews before getting into Dance Brooms and forming our family crew, which is the Hoods. Before that, I made Battle Reflex with some friends. That's back.
You were part of Battle Reflex?
I made that crew. Not just me though. I don't want to be like, yo, I made that crew.
Yeah.
But I was one of the beginning. It was like me, Fumi, Stick, Dustin, aka Catfish, and Christian, of course, Peter, Recipes Peter, we made that crew. They're more Seattle based, Battle Reflex. And then after that, I made Misguided Steps.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I made those 2 crews. My time with them was kind of like coming to an end at different times. I wanted to pursue things in a different route. Some people didn't want to dance as much. Some people wanted to dance in a different direction, whatever the case is. After that, I went solo for a long time, actually. I was kind of just always battling with a lot of the people in Dance Rooms. Me and Josh, aka Carnage, we used to battle in 2-on-2s all the time. Me and Germs, Woody. I know Woody was on your thing too, not too long ago. So we were always battling, and Janique, and a few of the members and Dance Rooms were like, yo, we should put Ash down. But they were very hesitant to put me down because it's always been just 7, right? They never expanded, never wanted to grow. It was like the original 7, and that was that. And then, finally, I guess I broke it. I broke their ideals on that, and I am the last member of Dance Brooms, and we're all old. So
you were the last person.
Yeah, I know for a long time we were thinking about putting down a couple of the younger ones, but then like I don't know, stuff just didn't work out, or it's when you teach kids, you kind of have to let the kids like figure if they want to stick with it, because some people just want to break just because like you're trying to impress somebody, but like not for the culture, they're not understanding the community, and they end up just being like a 1-2 year dancer, and that's it.
Right.
But yeah, I was the last one put down, and there's 8 of us. We like say the grade 8, and now I'm in Canada. Yeah. I was living in Tacoma for a very long time. Most of my career, whatever that means, as a dancer. Which is south of Seattle. And I moved up to Canada, live in Vancouver. I'm actually in your original squad that you made up, Oro. We're working on a bunch of projects right now. That is not a breaking crew. That is more of a mix. I would say, I don't want to say contemporary because that feels like boxing it in, but it takes like, maybe you should be given that since you're one of the original. Yeah. But I feel like it takes like some of the street dance elements or cultures and different practices and incorporates it with kind of like the theater environment with like some of the quote unquote professional dancers, ballet, modern, contemporary, etc. Yeah, so that's definitely a different outlook. As a dancer, very eye-opening. I don't even look at breaking the same anymore, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, that was my 20-second intro. No, that was like that was like 20 minutes, man.
Yeah, man. Like just kind of going off of that, like Oro, and not just Oro, but it was like meeting other people that were in that world that are outside of breaking and stuff like that. Like you said, it really changed your way of thinking about breaking or dance and whatever. It's the same thing with me. Like I can't see breaking the same way anymore. Like it's one of those paradigm shifts kind of thing. Like you fundamentally see it a different way.
For sure. And then also I was always like in the beginning, I was always with Oro with you guys in your rehearsals.
You were like our unofficially rehearsal director, right?
yeah. That was the like ongoing joke, and I'd be like, nah, you guys need to change this, or no, that's not really working, whatever. But you know, it's like, who am I? Like, you know, there are other people who have different styles that I am not proficient in, so it's like, for me, it was just an aesthetics thing with what I felt. But being there in the beginning and seeing how you guys have like went from Milky sessions to like what is going on now is like it's very interesting because even then, even though I wasn't in it, I was influenced by it by just participating the way I was participating because like it made me really, I don't know, like you said, paradigm shift. Like I was just breaking just seemed so it felt like I was being very boxed in, and I see all these other dancers that like they don't even look at labels. They don't even, all dance styles definitely have their foundation. You have to have your foundation for any kind of practice and skill. But outside of that, they were very free, very open to like not worrying about the parameters of being so traditional, I guess is the case.
Yeah.
So
the way that I kind of think about it is it's a lot like, I guess, how maybe some people would think of MMA and just like, I guess that's sort of become its own thing now and its own like whatever way of fighting, sort of. But it's sort of like, it's not any one particular style. There's some styles that will kind of be more influential or they're more effective or something like that. But whatever, people have their own background that they started in, and that kind of is like part of their foundation. Like some people have a karate base, or some people have like a taekwondo or whatever, so they might lean heavier into kicks, or some people are wrestlers and grapplers and whatever. But like they experiment and they take what's the most like effective way to do this thing in this situation or whatever. And I kind of feel like that's the same thing with not just oral, like lots of people have done this, but just when you start to think of dance as like less about this style or this style or this style and more about, I just want to move, and this is the type of music that's happening. What's the best way to move to this? Or what happens when you take this style and put it in this context? How does it change the movement or something like that or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's interesting because again, going off the analogy, like, if you started off as a boxer and you just are used to striking, but then you're put in an environment where now you're not restricted to just using your hands. You can use the rest of your body. In a fight, well, I might be really good at boxing, but I'm not used to someone's leg being longer than my arm and take my head off, so like there has to be some kind of adaptability, I think, in those situations, and being a part of like some, I would say almost like symbiotic collective, where like you're definitely kind of like you're grabbing and learning things from all these different genres of dance. I think, you just start kind of morphing into your just raw interpretation of music, raw interpretation of how you feel. Like, I think a big part of that is invoking emotions and expressing it. And, a lot of times, even rehearsal, like when we're working on stuff, we're not necessarily even listening to music, but it's just like we're listening to each other as what their intention is, or what our intention is for this part, or this, this section, right? So it's like, when I'm thinking about this, or whatever the project is, or whatever it calls for, it's like, how do I feel? How does it make me feel? Okay, how does that physically make me feel? And then kind of like just going into that, and then putting music on top of it, and then you're just like, oh, this song makes me, it like either exponentially makes me feel the same way I was feeling about this part, or it completely changes.
Yeah.
But being open to it is, I think, is the biggest learning piece, and just being more open and receptive. Yeah, man, like I even when I practice now, or when I do my own stuff, because I'm on, shameless plug on Patreon also. But but when I do my stuff, like I'm really like internalizing what I feel, and then the stuff that like the videos I make, or even the sessions I record, I'm not thinking about breaking. Like, I'm thinking about the music. I'm thinking about, like, I don't know, like, I've been doing this for so long. How do I take what I've been doing for so long and still make it interesting for me? Because I think everyone gets to that point where, like, it's not necessarily you want to quit, but you want to hit that spark again. You want to be provoked into, like, testing yourself, provoked into experimenting again. And it kind of like builds more culture in your own dance. So it's very eye-opening with the stuff I've been doing lately, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a I don't want this to get like too deep, and we're just like
nerding
like, out, but like I can already sense
we
it's
can
going.
Get existential if we want to get existential. We can go there.
But like, I think it's just the main thing that I want to bring up, and I think that most people could probably in some senses like identify with this kind of thing, that like you said, like we always kind of need these, you do something and you'll reach, I don't know, like a plateau or something, or just something feels stagnant or something like that, and you need these things to kind of like reinvigorate it with anything, not just dance, whatever. It's like your job or relationship or whatever, your life. And it's like you always need these little new things to make it interesting and fresh again somehow, right? Or just to give you like perspective on what you already were doing and have, and to make you realize like something new about what you were already doing, maybe.
Yeah. And I think also it's interesting because I'm on this side of like the timeline, right? I'm so many years in to breaking. And then I a lot of times reflect back, and I think about like younger self, and like, you're so anxious, you're so excited, and you want to like do everything. But I also remember the times where it's like you can feel lost, and you don't know your purpose in the dance. And I think I see that's where like a lot of dancers fall off, and or like, you always hear, oh yeah, I used to break in high school, you always hear that story. Oh yeah, and then they like try to bust out a backspin, try to be funny, and you're just like, yeah, you may have did it for a couple years, but you quit. You quit because you didn't have that spark even at that time in the beginning. So I feel like that's an ongoing struggle. But as you get older and you build up your vocabulary in anything, like you said, if it's a relationship or if it's like your job, after so many years, you're proficient at it. You're bored with it, or like you just don't, you have so much information about this subject matter that you just like kind of like, well, what else do I do? Like, you know? And I think that's where you also get kind of like this dichotomy of like older dancers being bitter towards like the younger generation, because it's like, oh, back in my day, we didn't have, sponsorships. We didn't have all these opportunities. We can make this a job. I had to work 40 hours and I was still dancing full time or whatever. So I think it's interesting to like, I don't know, just reflect. It's just it's so circular. Like there's so many ideas that are so circular in the way you think about dance, and I guess your approach with it. So
Yeah. I think that's another good point to bring up, though. It's just like, just I don't know. I just want to touch on that like generation thing, and
oh yeah, for sure. You want me to talk shit about the old generation?
No. It's just that's come up a lot recently, especially with just the shift of like, well, what's the direction of say breaking or whatever? Where is it going, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
because I know the Olympics are coming to Japan, and there is breaking in the Olympics, and that is like a 50-50. I see both sides of it.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess what I'm getting at more is it's stuff that I see. Maybe he's just the most vocal guy, but like guys like Renegade, and his, whether you agree with him or not, I think you can't really disagree with what he's saying about if you want something to change, like whatever you think it should be, do something about it and make it into that way that you think it should be. So if you think it should be more professional, make it more professional. And like, him and other people are pushing like, what are like actually really figuring out what are we judging on in this, like really trying to think of it deep and whatever in the system of how it's judged, or the like what are the maybe potential pitfalls that it could come into if people are coaching and they're judging. Yeah, that's a conflict of interest. Or if they're whatever, just like being proactive and actively trying to build what a potential path. And that's not to say that's the only path that it should be, but like people are being active about trying to do something, or like what Moy and Break Free and all those people are doing, and staying true to the culture that they know, while still trying to like push it to be bigger. Or people like Outbreak organizers, IBE organizers, all these people. It's easy to just be like, oh, this is whack and this is the way it should be and stuff like that. But like, well, what are you doing to actually push it into the direction that you think it should go?
Yeah, that's Renegade's also, he's I've had talks with him, and like he's a very analytical guy. That's just his background, right? That's,
he's like a physicist or something, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So his approach on it is definitely like, you're looking for results, then you need to produce something, right? Be proactive, like you said. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, if you think, I don't know, if you don't think, as an example, like if you don't think breaking should be in the Olympics, okay, then where should it be, and what are you doing to push it in that direction? Because like that's the problem. Everyone has something to say about it, but it's the movers and the shakers that are doing it. Like you brought up break free. You know, I love Jeremy's approach. I've had talks with Jeremy about like dance and like the vibe, feeling. Just he's a very much an artistic person, and I resonate with that a lot. And it's dope to see someone that has that same artistic view and still, again, like you said, try to create a platform to you know, to make it bigger, right? That's, I think, the ultimate goal is like we're not just trying to survive as dancers, we're trying to thrive. I mean, if you want to do the comparison of like the hip hop comparison, like I always hear, it's like, you know, rappers are like millionaires, but dancers are backup dancers. You know what I mean? Like we're all from like a hip hop culture, but then like one element seems to be constantly pushing their boundaries and thriving while we're fighting amongst ourselves, and then we depreciate for like 10 years and then we come back, and then it's like, oh, we're trying to evolve, we're trying to grow, and then it crumbles down again.
Yeah.
So there's like this weird thing, especially in breaking, which I don't understand. Every every decade it like changes, or you know, recesses, it goes into a recession and it like drops off, and it's you know, there's so many different elements that can play into that. You know, it could be ego, it could be like you know, big part of it actually is like a lot of b-boys and b-girls, mostly b-boys because it's mostly b-boys in the beginning, they're just lazy. Like, yo, we're lazy dancers, man. Like,
Yeah.
yo, you know, it's like I just want to get up, eat a cheeseburger and break, and then chill, hang out. You know, it's like, yeah, that was cool like when you were 18, but like, yo,
Yeah.
I can't eat a hamburger and then go out and like start practicing. Or like I can't go out and like get mad drunk and then just like next day go to a jam and expect to win. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely outliers and there are people that can do that, but that goes into play with like, okay, if you want to be more professional, is that a professional look? You know what I mean? Like, that's not. So I think it's like, for the most part, like as a community, as a culture, obviously not all of us, but a majority of us, we're lazy. We're fucking lazy, man. Like even, I mean, even if you look at other street dance styles, right? You know, they structure their foundation and they drill and drill. Like I know this just because I've been, you know, I've been doing Eric Squidget in Oro. He always has like a warm-up routine that's very similar on his popping. And his popping, his ticks are strong. And it's because he has this regiment and this drill that he keeps pushing out. And I think that's a part of the reason why, for me, like I started getting really drawn into footwork, because footwork is like you can drill it, right? All right, six step is six step, but like, are you drilling your six step? Is it looking clean? Like, are you thinking about each step when you're doing it to be as powerful as the first step when you know, hear that song? You know, like if I'm doing 10 sets of six step and I'm just drilling it, by the 10th one, am I exhausted? Is it looking sloppy? I don't know, because like, you know, b-boys are lazy. You know, we just don't be drilling like we need to be, as an example of like, I guess, work ethic. But again, there's outliers, right? There's people that do drill, that do, you know, thrive on competition amongst themselves or with others, and they start drilling and then you see them exponentially get better, right? I think that needs to be the same work ethic when it comes to going back to the example you were saying with Renegade. With, if you want it to go this way, if you want to be in the Olympics, then you need to create a path, forge a path to go into the Olympics. And if you don't want it to go that way, forge a path to go, you know, into whatever ciphers or whatever the case is, whatever route you want to create. You just got to do the work is the thing.
Yeah. And like, you know, I thought about just talking about like, say, alternative paths, like what's the right way for something to go or whatever. And like breaking for a while has leaned heavily into like the competition aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And
competitions are whack, by the way. Yo, straight up, competitions are whack now. Like, I understand we had a pandemic, but yo, these online e-battles and all this other stuff, that shit is corny. Like, I can't do it. Like, I respect anyone that's trying to do it, and you know, that's the future. But like, I can't even watch it. Like, it just doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that just every time I don't try to be on social media too much. So when I am on social media, I'm usually like promoting my own stuff, and when I post, all of a sudden I see this flood of like people's submissions for some kind of e-battle or something, and I'm like, yo.
I just posted this one thing, like a trolling entry into like bedroom breaks battle or something like that.
But that's funny. Bedroom break sounds funny.
but I totally agree with you. Like, I think most people don't really enjoy online battles, but you know, it's just the time that we're in, and like people want to compete, right? So that's like the only option. And I don't see them like sticking around as the main thing. Like some people might continue them, maybe, but even then, like I can't see people
agree with you.
Doing that.
I see it falling off as soon as everyone gets vaccinated and outside's open, like for real open. Like people are gonna be flying everywhere and competing just like it was before. Especially now because it's like everyone's got this pent up angst because it's been like 1-2 years of like lockdown in various countries, and finally when the floodgates open, everyone's be like hype. Yo, I've been in the lab. I'm about to go crazy, and just like bust out my flares. You don't even know, man.
Yeah, but I think, and this is kind of coming back to that competition aspect of like, or just what events should be or whatever, that kind of thing. And I think a big thing that touches on it is like, people like to compete, but I feel like maybe it's my own bias. I don't know, but I feel like a big part of these events is the social aspect of like, you go there and you just meet new people and you get to interact with new people. You get to become part of this like larger community or something like that. Even if you're like you're crazy into like competitions and stuff like that. It's like you're building networks of friends or just people, like depending what you want to do. If you want to just chill, like you got people to chill with in like other countries and just memories that you're making and stuff like that. And like competition is great, and there's separate memories that get made from that, but like all of my best memories are like just vibing with people, or like after the jam or during the jam and just catching up with someone I hadn't seen in a while or whatever. Like, and especially as I get older, like the competition aspect of it becomes like less important. And I think it's also just a generational thing. Like when you're young, you are kind of like, you got something to prove and you're trying to do something and make your name and stuff. And so like competitions can be a great way, or even like cipher competitions, like in a way that's its own separate competition or whatever, unofficial competition. But like, it's more about trying to prove something, whatever. And just like, I'm older now and I like just don't really like care about making a name for myself or something like that, like proving that I got to do something. It's just like, I just like moving, and I realize like it's just a fun thing to do. And like if other people are doing it and we can share in that too, like that's something special. And we're not trying to like one up each other in a ego kind of way. Like you can one up each other in like a, check this out, oh that's dope, check this out kind of thing. Like
or even like getting inspired on the spot and like flipping something that someone did. You know, it's like it goes back to the social aspect, like you're communicating in your dance, right? Yeah, it's just you know, a lot of people, it's like the competition also has big cash rewards, right? And some people are looking to like have that financial support.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like that's short term. Like,
that's short term for sure, because I know a lot of people that win that money and they blow that money in like in 2 seconds. And like, you know, that's them living, you know, trying to live their best life in that moment.
Yeah.
But like you said, my favorite things about jams, competitions is traveling, meeting people, building those relationships and networks is like, it's like it's like invisible trophy, right? You know, you're meeting all these people and it's like, oh, I gained a new person that vibes with me, or like I met someone that were like-minded. And then we're not even talking about dance anymore. Like we're just hanging out. We find out we have similar interests in like, you know, culture, like music and like shows, movies, video games, life, whatever the case is. Like there's like similarities, and it's like now you can see yourself in a reflection of that other person, and you're like, you don't feel alone. You're like, oh, I really do fit in this community because there are people like me that are like just, you know, trying to do the same thing that I'm doing. And then I think that building of the community is like the backbone for a lot of dancers, especially like for, you know, just mental capacity, just like to be like mentally happy and like know that someone else is like going through my same struggles, or knowing that someone else thinks the way I think. Like it's a refreshing thing. Yeah, I don't even care about the battle anymore. Like, yeah, I lost first round, or I lost in the finals, and man, it was so close, but who cares, man? The after party was crazy. You know, I got to hang out. You know, get to have a lot of times you get to have great conversations with people that maybe you grew up like admiring, you know, or like learning from, and building relationships even with, you know, the older generation. And I think that's where that generation to generation like knowledge gets passed down also.
Yeah, that's an important one, passing the knowledge.
Yeah,
I really think that's something that like either younger people need to be more active in seeking, and especially now with like the technology that's available. That's part of like one of the reasons why I have this podcast, is to record people's stories and just record their knowledge, and it's just out there and it's available.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of people to get through, but
the technology, yeah, I don't know, but the technology is so readily available. So now like we're living in a 2-minute bubble where like everybody's like
true.
not entertained in 10 seconds and moving on.
Yeah.
So the situation is people are taking the knowledge, not, you know, I'm saying majority of people are taking they're taking it for granted. And like I remember digging, looking for VHS tapes, trying to get like even beta tapes of like, you know, old school breaking, and like just learn. Like I couldn't even meet these people because I never thought about traveling when I was a kid. I thought about like, oh, I gotta get that VHS so I could see what that guy did, or like I heard this battle was crazy, you know. And it was it's like something in the mindset of people, like as soon as something's hard to attain, I gotta have it. You know what I mean? Like now everybody has, you know, the information, or can just look it up online, and they don't really care. Not as like when I was coming up. It's just it was so much harder to get anything back then. And like some things I only saw with my own eyes, and it's like I have to tell people about it. And I think that's what creates that lineage of like that legendary history. Yo, I was there when and K-Mel were battling. It was wow, man, you don't understand. And it's like, you know, people just, they get inspired just by those words and like, yo, what's going on, right? And you know, like now it's like, oh yeah, it's on YouTube, man. Just post it up. And I'm just like,
for sure,
what?
for sure. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man. But they're like, I don't care. If it's on YouTube, I'll look at it later. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, it's
It's
the
just
pros and cons, right? Of
yes.
the technology that we have now. And you know, there's like pros and cons of back then, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But I think, like you said, like doing stuff like this, having like some kind of recording, some kind of history, whether it's podcasts, videos, whatever the case is important. You know, you're keeping up with the technology, but you're also creating that timeline for people.
Yeah, well, it comes back to that kind of thing of like, what do you think is, or where do you want the scene to go, or something like that. And like, I personally don't like the push towards just like it's all about athleticism and who can do this, who can do the most, the fastest, jump the
The
highest, who can
hardest.
spin the fastest, who can do it the hardest, and that kind of thing. Like, sure, I'm not saying people aren't allowed to do that, but it's not what I'm interested in. Like, I've always been interested in the way that people think. Like, I remember when I was young, when I was starting out, yeah, I'd watch videos and look at how people are moving. But I also, some of the stuff that really stuck with me was interviews with people, and like interviews with like Ken Swift, and he's talking about how he used to write out all his moves and stuff and set them out at practice, and he had like all these different papers and you just run through them. It's like his way of thinking about whatever. Or the like interviews with Po One, and he's talking about like understanding the history of the song to get like the feeling of where it comes from, and that'll translate into your dance or something like that, whatever, right? Like, those are the things that always stuck with me the most. Or even just like, it's things like outside of like breaking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I agree. I think what really makes, I don't know, kind of like to put a ribbon on the whole thing about it is, I think everyone's worried about the end product. You know what I mean? Everyone is just worried about hitting that hardest, fastest, most difficult, you know, move or whatever. And they're just thinking about end product, and they're skipping over the culture of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem, is like there's this instant gratification, man. And people just want to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to be the best. I tell kids, it's like, I want to be the best. Like, I look at like, you know, like Florida Bboy, Kevo. Kevo is like, if people know who Kevo is, they know that Kevo is the man. But like, he hasn't been in the scene for so long. He's been behind the scenes. So instrumental in the Florida scene, in breaking in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like, even though he's not in the scene, he still practices, he still does his own thing, and he can probably still smoke a lot of these dancers, you know, but like, because you don't see it and you don't hear about this person, you think they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, that those are the type of people I kind of respect, is like, yo, I can just say, forget all this. I do this for me, and you know, I'm purely happy being here on, you know, the middle of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
into the unknown, unseen, and still doing exactly what I was doing before, and be happy with it.
Yeah.
Though that's like that's a big admirable thing, because like, it really goes against the grain of what a lot of breaking is, ego. And
Mm-hmm.
like, to go completely opposite of ego and just be free kind of falls back into like that freedom of expression. Like, I'm not doing it to like win the crowd, win the votes, win the money or anything. I'm just doing it because I really am about it. I really love it. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that freedom of expression. And I think that's a really hard thing for people to really wrap their heads around, maybe, is like, just when we talk about ego, and you know it's not just like having a big head and like I think I'm the best and that kind of thing, but it's like you said, like you're letting go of that desire to like to impress people or have some kind of status or have some kind of whatever, like image of yourself and what you think you should be doing or whatever. And it's just like just really letting go and just being and be free. Like I didn't get that. Like there's an old interview, it's like a Break Vision or something interview with Remind, and it was like, they talk about whatever, blah 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 blah, and at the end it's like, so what are you what are your goals or something like that for the future? I forget what the question was, but his answer was just like, I just want to be free. I just want to dance and be free. And I was like, when I was younger, I didn't get what that meant. What did he mean by free? Like, and now that I'm older and you have more experiences, and you've maybe even seen that kind of almost in some ways futile chase of fame and making a name and that kind of thing of like,
yeah,
whatever. Like, I'm not knocking people who are trying to do that, but like,
yeah,
it just wasn't for me. And now I get that kind of feeling of, oh yeah, just enjoying the dance for what it is, and that freedom of expressing and moving how you want to move, and especially doing stuff with Oro, that made it even more clear of like, man, there's so many possibilities and so many ways to move, and that I never thought about because it was boxed into this breaking, that kind of thing. And then it just became part of the fun, was just like, and I think that's part of what makes breaking fun, is even though we say that it's boxed in a lot of ways, it's really open, like, because it doesn't have that set rigid foundation. So in some ways it has that crazy
it's
open
fun.
You can do anything. Like, it's weird.
No, I agree. Like, you're absolutely right. The thing that I love about breaking is it is so free and it is so open. What creates the box is our own thought process of what breaking should be. We box ourselves into something that's already naturally just like the foundation. Yes, there is foundation. Yes, you should learn it. But like, there's so many different ways you can like interpret it. And there's so many different ways of you like even changing it and evolving your own foundation into like new foundation. But again, we get fundamentalists, we act like fundamentalists, and we end up start restricting ourselves and putting ourselves in this box. And it's just ironic. It's just irony. The fact that is like, when you first learn how to break, you don't know anything and you just like wilding out. And it's like the most freeing, uninhibited feelings that are coming out in expression. And then as soon as you start digging and you start learning about the culture and learning about the foundation, you're like, okay, let me start adding these words to my vocabulary so I can speak to others so they can understand me. But then we get caught up in that, and then all of a sudden we're just like, all right, now I need to start boxing myself in here. I can't be doing isolations like that because I'm not a popper, or that's not breaking. Or you could take it to traditional dance. It's like, I can't be turned out like a ballet dancer because that looks weird and breaking, or whatever the case is, right? We restrict ourselves. I don't it's very much a paradox, because we come into it so free, and then like we restrict ourselves. It's like we create our own prison, and then once we're complete in building our own walls, we're like, oh wait, I don't want to be in here. And then we have to take our walls down. when in the beginning we didn't even have those restrictions. So it's like, I don't know, it's like we become our own prison guards and then we have to break ourselves out. It makes no sense to me, but I see it all the time with a lot of dancers when they get older.
Yeah, I always kind of think of that, like you're always riding this fine line of like the easiest way to put it is just like order and chaos, and you could think of it as like creativity and freedom and more structure and whatever
foundation
that kind of thing.
use everyone wants
Something
to
like
use
that,
foundation
right?
as the word. You have to have your foundation.
So it's like, and I wonder how much of this is like depending on the person's kind of like personality or how they were brought up or whatever, that kind of thing. Like people will lean more into one way or the other of like, it's just their way of thinking, like, well, you know, breaking should be this way. And they're more like kind of, you might be able to even see it in the rest of their life. Like they're maybe more like kind of orderly or something like that. Who knows? I wonder how much
or it could even be the opposite, right? Like, let's say my life is really orderly, but then like when I break, it's pure chaos because like that's my release. That's my like, I don't have to control anything. So it can play either direction. I think, however, the person goes back to what you're saying. It depends how the person thinks. If they're thinking I have to control this part of my life, compartmentalize that to be in order, and then in breaking I have to be like uncontrolled, you know, then that's my approach. And or if like I'm just a control freak and I have to control everything, then it's like I have to be super foundational. I have to make sure I hit A, B, and C, and then also my life is organized and color coordinated.
But sorry, coming back to that, like that balance, the delicate balance of like, if things are too free, there's no structure and it's just like, what the hell's going on? You don't even know what it is, right? So there has to be some structure and some order, but it can't be too orderly because then it's like you said, we're talking getting too restrictive and like you can only do these things and you can only go this way and stuff like that. And so, I think that maybe that's why stuff like oral or just when I was learning breaking, just being exposed to, because when I started, the guy that I started with was a popper, and a lot of the first dancers that I met were poppers, and I didn't even know breakers before that. Like, that was what I was surrounded by. And then like watching videos, and you'd see like freestyle session, you'd see whatever, but I also saw detours, and like those guys just, I don't even know if they would call what they do breaking or popping or whatever. It's like, that's Midas. He's doing Midas, and that's Rob Zilla, and he's doing Rob Zilla, and that kind of thing. Like, so it's like, again, like they have their influences and the things that are their foundation, but they're exploring what is me, what is like my way of doing that kind of thing. And like, I guess that's getting into like true style, like your style, that kind of thing. Like, but you can't get there without some sense of like foundation and ways of moving, and also having that element of just like free exploration and no restrictions kind of thing. It's like the two together help you find that path.
It's like, foundation is like crawling, before you walk. You can't walk until you learn, right? So in order to learn that, you have to have the foundational understanding. I always like using the analogy of words. If I yell a bunch of like big words, but they like don't stick together, they don't make sense, or they're not even coherent in a sentence, then I'm not saying anything. But then it's like when someone teaches me how to write a sentence or how to speak, then now people understand me. I feel like it's a communication thing. It's just the physical replication of our communication. And if people want to know that I'm foundationally sound, then that's what I'll speak. Other people like to get in, dig deeper in themselves, like, and sometimes that requires them to get weird, and to step out of their comfort zone. Um, even during the times where detours came out and originality stands alone, there was a lot of people in the community that didn't even like that or didn't even see it as breaking it, but like they were true to them, right? And like you said, when you see Midas dance, you're like, yo, that's Midas. Like you don't even, it's like it's not even breaking. It's just like, yo, that's Midas, and that's like,
it's not whatever. Like it's just Midas.
yeah, it's like it's the physical embodiment of himself and expressing himself, and like that's really cool. Like I hope that's, for me, that I hope that's what people want to do. I know that I can't dictate that that is what needs to happen, because again, breaking means something different to other people. Some people see it as a competitional thing or a athletic thing, like, you
Yeah.
don't know their history. Some people could be like, growing up, I was always a fat kid, and then I found breaking and it saved my life, and I'm in great shape, and I take care of my body because I love breaking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, cool, power to you. But for me, it's like, I found breaking, like, I found breaking from my friend that skates. My friend was a skater and he did like a swipe, and I was like, yo, what is that? And then what did you just do? Because I suck at skating, but that was crazy. And like that's how I found breaking. I didn't even find it from like, some like dance class or from some OG B-boy that I happened to come across. It was legitimately this skater that he enjoyed skating, but then he also enjoyed breaking, and it's like, oh shit, like what is that? Can you teach me? And then I fell in love with it. That was it. End of story. Now I'm just trying to find myself in it.
Yeah, like I really think breaking, or just whatever people's interests are, but we're talking about breaking now. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? And I think that's, it's kind of coming, I guess, full circle now. Like we were talking about the Olympics and Renegade and stuff at the beginning, and just kind of one of the things that he's mentioned too, which I agree with, is like people saying, "Oh, breaking's not a sport, it's not this," which is, sure, you can make that argument, but at the same time, like it's not, it depends like what it means to you, right? To some people it's not a sport, to others it is, to others, like, and there is that sports element to it, like, or like athletic element to it, right?
Yeah, there's physical work.
Yeah.
Like the entry point for breaking is so much higher than a lot of the other street styles. So I get it. People can see it as an athletic thing.
Yeah. Like I that's not the path that I personally wanted to go, but again, like people can do, it means different things to different people, right? If that's something that gets people into breaking, and there's people that enjoy that path, perfect, and that's great. And if hopefully there's some overlap, that people who maybe get into it because of that, they see this other side, the culture side, the social aspect of it, and this kind of thing, or just the artistic side of like just creating and enjoying the exploration, like what we were talking about. Like, I hope there's some overlap, that it's not only focused on this one aspect. And that again comes back to people taking the initiative and not being lazy, and creating the stuff that they want to see in the culture, and promoting and pushing it, and I guess in a healthy way, without trying to just be like, it's got to be one or the other. You gotta take this one down for this one to come up, like the zero sum, what is it, zero sum game kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely shades of gray, you know. There's a lot of things about competition I like, and I can also see the positives for, you know, even as an example, for the breaking in the Olympics. There's a lot of positives in that because it raises the awareness of breaking to non-dancers, to the general public, right? Everybody loves basketball because public, you know, public people see basketball. But the thing is, for me, basketball at the end of 4 quarters, as an example, whoever has more points wins the game. End of story. There's no argument there. Now, the judging system in breaking, the decisions on what is rated at this score compared to this score are all ambiguous. And that's the thing that I can't understand. I don't have a solution for.
Yeah.
As trying to, you know, if somebody does 5 air flares and that's 10 points, but then someone does like original footwork and that's 4 points, the person that's into footwork is always going to lose. You know what I mean? Like if we're holding certain things higher than other things in the dance. So I just don't understand, like, I don't understand how the judging system could be similar to something like a points-based game, such as basketball or tennis or whatever the case is. So, you know, the only other thing I could think of in the Olympics that could be similar is figure skating. Figure skating is kind of ambiguously judged, but then if you look at recent history, even that is kind of like getting gamed. Whoever hits the most triple axles always ends up winning, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that equivalent to the person that hits the most air flares or the most like 90s or spins or whatever, right? So,
well, even figure skating too, like as far as I'm aware, there's certain things that they have to do in a run, in their round,
in a round, like
they have to do a spin, or they have, I don't know what the terms are, as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, but it's like even no, has been structured in a certain way that there is sort of a, not formula, but there's certain things that you have to do.
No, I can agree with that. I think formula is the right word. Like A plus B plus C equals, you know, the winner, right? And if I don't want to do B, I'm destined to more likely not win in the eyes of the judges. So until the judging system becomes less ambiguous, I think that's when you'll see breaking to be, I guess, more, realistically approachable in kind of like that environment. But again, they are the ones that are making the moves. Whoever is pushing for breaking in the Olympics, they are successful. It's in the Olympics, you know, and there are plenty of people supporting that. And the people that don't want that need to, again, make their own path and do their own thing. I see this like going back to what I was saying, where I feel like it's like a circle. In the 80s, breaking got super oversaturated, played out, and died out in the 90s, and it kind of like became like this underground thing, like a subculture thing, right? In the 90s, the rumblings of breaking was still around, but wasn't as big as a platform as in the 80s. You know, you hear all these older people that, you know, talk about, oh, you guys still break? I thought that was like in the 80s. Like that's because the platform was so big during that time. Then comes the 2000s, and all of a sudden it starts brewing back up. And then we have, like, you know, these opportunities with these investors, you know, like we had the silverback events, we have kind of like all these things that are kind of like propelling us to go higher and higher, which also led the pathway to breaking the Olympics. I feel that we're going to get to a point where it's kind of like a bubble, it's going to pop, right? And then it's going to die out again, and it's going to go back into the kind of like this subculture underground thing. And unfortunately, like, the thing for me is I'm looking at a bigger picture. I don't want that to keep happening. going back to like the hip hop, the elements comparison, rappers in the late 70s and 80s, you know, were just rapping on the corners of streets, and they were rapping about stuff in their life, and it was the culture. And compared to now, like it is an industry, you know, like it is, let's, you know, hip hop, rap music is the popular music. It's pop music right now. Everybody wants, you know, to live the life of a rapper, make millions of dollars, et cetera, et cetera. If we don't look at our timeline and see that we're actually not growing, we're just constantly devolving our own industry, our own culture, we're never going to get past this.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at like what is it, 40, 50, 60 years, and it's, you know, like backup dancers still don't make as much as, you know, rappers. Like I hate using the comparison of money and finance as like the path to success. But the realist side of me is like the people that have that financial backing also have the power to change things on a bigger scale. And we're never going to change things on a bigger scale until we have that power.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think some of that too is just like you kind of touched on it a bit of like public perception. You know, what do they think breaking is, or what do they think dance is? And like maybe, and I've said this before, I kind of think like North America has this view of, because there kind of is, you know, North America was like founded by, there were people who were here before like you know, Americans and like Canadians or whatever came to
You're talking about
the whatever,
the indigenous people,
yeah,
you
right,
know,
came, yeah,
the real owners of the land.
So like, you know, they're sort of like, you know, they basically, the people came and like reset the culture, and like
yeah.
And maybe they were leaving that place because they didn't want to stay in the UK or whatever it is, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, my whole life growing up in Canada and just seeing like, well, what is Canadian culture? Part of it was like, well, we don't even know what Canadian culture is. Like we're nice, and that's all we kind of really have. Like and hockey. Yeah, you love hockey and you love beer. Like, and is that it? Like, that's not a culture. Like, you know, other places with like deep history, they have a history of art. They have a lot of them have their own cultural dances, and like, you know, Native Americans, First Nations people, like they all have that. They all have their own art, their own dances that they did and things like that. And like, so a lot of times when I think about North America and like its perception towards dance, it's a lot of like, well, we just think of it as like dance is for dancers. That's what a dancer does. It's like, if you want to do dance, you become a ballerina, or you become like, yeah, studio hip hop dancer. But it's not about like,
or a commercial dancer,
or a commercial dancer, yeah, that kind of thing. Like, you know, and it's less about dance just being a part of the culture and something that people do, which is what you kind of see in like South America, or, you know, every once in a while I'll see someone post, you know, these people like dancer friends or whatever, they'll post something from some random like African country, and it's just people out in the freaking streets, and they're just like vibing, you know, like it's like it's in them like culturally to just move, because that's like they grew up surrounded by it or whatever. It's just part of something that people do there. And like, that's not a thing in North America for most people. I think it's like in school, you have a school dance, but it's like, what do I even do? Okay, you just, I don't know, you like do the pointy dance or something like that. You don't even know what to do. There's no like culture around it. And like, you know, we learned like square dancing in PE or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Like, how is this relevant
Yeah.
to anyone? Like, so, my thinking is you focus on like the competition and that kind of thing, but to come back to what you were saying about the judging, and judging being like, breaking is inherently like, it's an artistic thing. Like, you can't, if you put point values or things like that, you can't get away from it being subjective, I think. And even stuff
If
that's objective, like basketball and this kind of thing, you get to that point where it's like, well, was that a foul or wasn't it a foul? Like, you have the objective thing of like, the ball went in the hoop and that's a point.
yeah,
But there's subjective things like in,
did I get it? Did I get fouled? Did I not get fouled?
yeah, like
Did I get hit?
how much leeway do you have? Like, and you see that especially in like, probably even in basketball, but you see it a lot in hockey, where there's the regular season officiating and then there's the playoff season officiating, and it's way more lenient. You'll see things like certain things that people get away with that they could never get away with in the regular season, and it's like, well, that's the human factor and like the subjectivity of it. But then you take something like breaking, where it's like all like personal preference. Like, yeah, you have that foundation that it's built off of, but like, how do you judge someone like Heat Rock versus I don't know who's the B-boy Bart or something, Pocket or something like that? Like, like, you can't really say that like what Pocket is doing isn't creative and artistic in its own way or whatever. Like, it's he's doing what he does. Or like someone like Ivan, he would just like flip around and do stuff or whatever, right? But that's like he even mentions it in like, I think it's in his like solo DVD or whatever. DVD, oh man, dated myself there. But he's like, right. If I want to flip and tumble, like, that's my way of
breaking,
like, and it's kind of like, who are you to say that that's not right? Like, that's his way of expressing like that kind of thing. And
I mean,
so, you're right. Let me just, sorry, it's a long thought.
No, go ahead. No, you're hitting a lot of good points. So like,
but yeah, so like, just one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot over the years is when you put that emphasis on like competitions and stuff, like, you can't get away from that point of like, it's subjective and people aren't going to agree on things, no matter how. I think making it more transparent, and you see a bit more of like why they made the decisions that they made, and being more clear about what they're judging things on, that's all great. But you're never really, I don't know how you could get away from the fact that it's like being a food critic. It's like, I like Thai food over Japanese food, but someone might like Japanese food over Thai food. You can take the same dish and be like, that's better to me. That's better to me. Yeah. And it's like, what did you grow up on? What are your like you said, preferences, right? And so like, in my opinion, like, the real solution, I don't know, I'm not some like mastermind or whatever, this is just what I think, but like, the real solution is to just get people back into understanding dance as just something that they do. And it's not about, if you do dance, you're a dancer and you're this athletic god or whatever, I don't know, whatever kind of thing, or you're an artist and you're doing this. It's like, no, it's just something that you do, and it's a social thing, and it's something that brings people together, and it's something that people can enjoy together. And like, that's kind of what we tried to do with something like Floor Horseman, was blend that competition and the excitement of competitions without having to be like, okay, and we're judging, and then this person moves on, and this guy, and the focus is on like, it's more like just the show, and like, hey, appreciate this aspect of the culture and of what we do, and just have the excitement of like watching two people go at it. And but then the main part of most of the event is just music, people getting together, having fun, enjoying music, enjoying dance. And like, and I always say this too, like, I don't think those events would have been the way they were without having people that like soldiers. I don't know if you know what soldiers are, but like,
I know what soldiers is.
yeah, it was like this, for anyone who doesn't know, it was this dance company that was in Vancouver, and it's like a training company, I guess. So like they teach you the foundations of all these different dances, but not
This is
only
not what
just,
Rena told me, but okay.
well, it's like it leaned quite heavily on performance stuff and getting you ready to be an industry dancer. But I don't think anyone who was a part of it, and I think if you ask Rena this, like, she can't deny that there's a lot that she took away from that, as far as just foundation of what is dance.
Yeah.
Because they learned stuff from like so many people, and they learned not just, okay, what's the foundation of breaking, but they learned like social dances, and what's the foundation of just like dancing and grooving and this kind of thing. And I would see them, like, I think that's one thing that made, I don't know about now, but that's one thing that made Vancouver so special, like when I was kind of still around there, I guess, like 5-6 years ago.
I think that's why in Vancouver specifically, there's such a strong melting pot of different styles. Like, this is one of the few cities, I would say, that there's a meeting place, obviously Robson Square, which since the pandemic is not looking so great, but that's a different story. Anyways, it is like where all the dancers go in the street dance community, and like the exposure for a b-boy to see a popper, to see a locker, to see a hip hop dancer, just like grooving, getting down, whatever. I think having something like Soldiers that introduces that and creates like a training regimen to be actively looking at other styles, kind of like moved the community here in more of like I hate saying all styles, but I'm going to say it here, all styles community, where everybody is coming together and hanging out, partying, having a good time, social dancing, having ciphers, whatever the case is. If you go to other places, that's not so prominent. There's b-boy practices here. There might be like Vogue classes at this studio, whatever the case is. It's not like everyone is here. You see everyone. You're kind of forced to interact or not interact with people.
But I really think of that as like just, it's real community. Like it's dance community. It's not just a breaking community, a popping community, a house community. It's like you have those separate things, but then there's the overall thing. And I think Vancouver Street Dance Festival is always like a great representation of that. And I think it's like such a great thing to show to the public. And I love the fact that it's free, it's outdoor in this public space that it's so easy to access that anyone can just go and just like check it out. And every year we see Robson Square is like packed with people just checking out what the stuff that we do. And like, it's a great way to just showcase it to people. And they do have the battles as a thing for people to watch, but they do a good job of like having the time for people to just like have fun and dance. And you really see it at the end of every Vancouver Street Dance Festival when they finish, and they're just kind of like winding down, and there's just music playing and everyone's just dancing. And like, I see all the people that I know are dancers, and you just see random people who are just having fun and like moving and enjoying what's going on. And like, it definitely has a lot of that like party atmosphere, and not like drinking, getting drunk, and we're partying. But like celebration,
partying community and everything. It's like celebrating the dance. And the thing is, like, since it's in such a public space, you don't know who you're inspiring. There could be a kid walking by and they just hear music, or they,
Mm.
see a crowd of people and then they go and see it. And then all of a sudden they're like, yo, what is that? And then they end up falling in love with, you know, a dance style or dancing in general.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's real culture. That's like you said, like your example of like in Africa, people would just go out and dance. Well, I mean, this is kind of like the same thing when we
Yeah.
have Vancouver street dance. And I mean, yeah, I know there's categories, and I kind of, not to like nitpick on the subjects, because I don't even think there should be categories. I think it should just be a celebration. But I think that's what sparks interest to get people outside of Vancouver, as far as dancers, to come to Vancouver
Yeah. Yeah.
and share.
Hmm.
And I mean, the last one that they did, what, 2019, like I didn't even enter everyone expected me to enter the breaking bell. I didn't even enter the breaking bell. I entered
Oh yeah, that's right.
hip hop. I entered hip hop and locking, you know what I'm saying? And
Did you enter
I'm like,
locking?
well, I mean, Firelock was judging, and I was giving Firelock a hard time, and I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna do it." And then I entered. He didn't pick me though. I didn't make it,
Bias.
but it was
He needs to be more transparent with his judging and blah blah blah. I'm just kidding.
no.
I'm just kidding.
I take it back. I didn't. I did hip hop. No, hold up. I did hip hop. I did locking, and I did the house competition, because Toyin was also there, and I didn't make. I made top 8 and hip hop, and I lost to Mega Man. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like, what the way I perceive that jam is like, yo, I'm gonna enter these, and like, I can understand if some people look at it as disrespect to their practice or whatever, but no one saw it that way, because it was, again, a celebration of dance. I went in there and I had fun, and whatever happened, that's that. And yeah, like I don't even care about the categories in that example for that jam. Like I just enjoyed being there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like again, it comes to me. It always comes back to the social aspect, and it's just a fun thing to go to, and just experience and enjoy. And like that's it. That's all there is to it. Like competitions they have their good points and stuff, and like some people enjoy it. But I think if that's the only thing that you enjoy from an event, like you're missing out on this huge part that's really big. Did you have something to say?
I was just gonna say, like, I agree, because you hit so many points. Like you kind of went down this list.
Yeah, I went on this little rant.
But it's cool though, because like there's a lot of things that you touched on, like how it's not really in the culture, or what is Canadian culture, or what is North American culture. Let's just be a little bit more broad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, that's such a complicated subject, because like everyone can tell you the history of hip hop, because it's written online. You can Google it. You can have OGs tell you the story, whatever the case is. And that was the beginning of a culture that came from something, right? In the States, but the thing is, like, that was the starting point. And like, I feel like that is the real authentic, like, foundation of what hip hop, what breaking is. And like, we have to go back to that and understand what why are we doing this? What is the purpose? And once we understand that, that's when we can start really solidifying our interpretation of the culture, and also contributing to the culture. Because like, yo, I'm not from New York. How can I relate to people from New York during these difficult times, coming up with with hip hop, with breaking, with all of it? But I know my life, right? And I know that when I found hip hop, it saved me from doing, you know, whatever else, but also it sparked something inside me
Yeah.
to allow myself to express myself. So I need to contribute my culture into breaking. So what am I into? And then I need to share that, and that's when you network with people and you meet people that are like-minded, and then it becomes like this thing that just keeps growing. And
Mm-hmm.
now the culture of hip hop is so diverse. It's so different than what it was in the beginning. Like, you know, hip hop is touched so many different aspects of the world. But the thing is, like, going back to like my concern is like, you know, we're going in this circle. We're like running in this circle, and we're never going to get out of this up and down situation where it's like, oh, breaking's popular, now it's not popular. And I, unfortunately, I hate saying this because I really, it's not about money. It's never about money. It's about the culture of it. But unfortunately, what moves people is the finance. And when you see like us going to these big jams, get sponsorships, get breaking, get exposure, we have to take those as opportunities to then reinvest it in the culture to
Mm-hmm.
make it even bigger and not go back into like a situation where it devolves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everyone, you're fighting against so many different egos in this situation where people just want to get paid, where, you know, people just want to be famous, whatever the
Yeah.
case is, as
Yeah.
opposed to how can we make this bigger now? How can we make sure all of us get paid? How can
Yeah.
we make sure that, like, as dancers, we're taken care of? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, in the States, we don't have free healthcare. Here in Canada, it's great. You get healthcare. Dancers get hurt more likely than people walking down the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do, like, especially breaking. Again, the entry point for breaking is very physical and a lot of athleticism, you know, but in the States where it originated from, if I if I have to go to the ER or if I have to go to the hospital, yo,
Yeah.
that's like 20, 30 grand. Like I'm is it worth me going to the hospital if like I dislocate my shoulder and I just have to like I'm like screw it, I'm just gonna pop it in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no I hate using the word foundation because I'm not talking about it in this, you know, in the dance way, but there's no foundation for us to build a house to go even taller. Like
Mm-hmm.
we just keep building the foundation and then breaking it down,
Well,
or we'll build the foundation and then we'll move on. We never grow um, to a point where like, okay, now as a dancer, I have healthcare, or I have financial support. You know, some people are like, "Yo, I want to be a professional dancer," and like you said, what does that mean? As being a commercial dancer, as being like a hip hop studio dancer? And it's like, no, I'm gonna be a professional b-boy. Well, that ain't gonna pay the bills. But see, that shouldn't be the situation. It should be able to pay the bills, because back then, when kids wanted to be a rapper, you couldn't pay the bills. But now kids be a rapper and they're famous, and you know do all this stuff and make hit records, they're making money and they have a team of like 50 plus people that they support. We need to be as dancers. Like, if there's a famous dancer that has this much fame and
right,
power,
right.
they should be able to be like, I need X, Y, and Z, and so I can support 50 plus people, you know, bring us all up
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that we can start building higher and higher.
yeah.
Like to even go into the technology term situation, like a lot of people not too long ago had an issue with like video games taking dance moves, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how many video games you've seen people do flares and windmills and all that
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But the thing is, like, who copyrights it and who gets paid for it in comparison to a song? If there's a song that's on a video game, there are rights and there are
Mm-hmm.
like people getting paid off of that song, you know, going into that game. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like we don't have anything like that, and that's the problem. You know, we are financially poor, compared to the music side of hip hop. You know, like culturally we're rich. Maybe we're like also a little bit lost because a lot of people feel breaking Olympics way versus breaking as an artist is the way. Maybe we're too enriched in that, but we're financially poor and we're not empowering ourselves. Maybe because, again, going back to us being lazy or whatever you want to call it, but we don't have the financial backing to be like, yo, we need to get paid. Instead of, like, for example, Fortnite saying, hey, Dean, I want you to do this recording. You know, we're going to do a body recording for you, your footwork. We'll give you $5,000. You'd be like, wow, $5,000, that's great. Do I get any rights though? You know, do I get any royalties? Like, what do you mean you get royalties? You know, I'd rather take $2,000 and 5% royalties of all your video games that you sell, because like that's going to be more lucrative in the long run. And then I can also support other people. That's the problem I'm seeing as I get older. Because again, like going back to even in the beginning where we were talking about Oro. Oro is like a combination, a collective of all these different street styles going into a theater world, which is a scary situation because in the theater world is kind of like the quote unquote professional dancers, contemporary, modern, jazz, ballet. And it's insane how they get paid. Like you go to a ballet, first of all, who are your clients? You have a lot of rich people buying those tickets, but those dancers are getting paid, you know, much more than a street dance show, right? Whereas you have a street dance show where a kid is busking and yeah, you make a few dollars. Sometimes you make a lot of money too, but it's a gamble. You're not guaranteed you're going to sell out the theater because you're not in a theater, you're on the street. So I'm in between these two worlds where I'm like, the financial support is here as a ballet dancer. Why am I not a ballet dancer? Well, I love breaking. I want to do this. I want to break. Ballet dancers, they do their dance and like they do it for their life, and they, you know, have some kind of like financial support for them. I'm seeing that and I'm like, well, I break and I love it and I want financial support from that. How is that different from that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like how is it they're okay with that because their clientele is the rich and wealthy? I'm like, yo, I've seen some modern pieces, some contemporary pieces, and they're trash. Like I'm not even trying to like, yo, man, like I'm seeing someone sitting on like a chair and they're like crying for like 20 minutes. I'm like, are you serious? Like this isn't.
Yeah.
I'm busting my ass and like I'm getting like $5 and you know what I'm saying? You're over here selling out the house and you're getting like, you know, a salary, and I'm the ones with the bruises and the cuts. So I'm just like I want to shine a light on breaking as being more, me personally, as an art form. And I think that's the route that's going to financially empower breaking, because it's going to propel it into like that theater world. Because I notice a lot of the people in that audience, they're not looking for you to tell you what they're doing, what you're doing. Like, I'm not being literal with my dance.
Yeah.
I'm being an artist. I'm interpreting, you know, the music. I'm interpreting the ambience, the feeling, the emotions, whatever it is. And I'm expressing it in my dance. Like, I'm not going to tell you what I feel. The purpose of my dance is to invoke emotion and expression from my expression, to evoke an emotion from you. And then you interpret it however you want to. And then that's art. That's how you feel. And then we can talk about it. And then, like, you know, even I know a lot of these things do talkbacks, and it's like I don't even think talkbacks are necessary. Like, I don't even want to tell you like what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. I want you to tell me how what you receive. What is the reception? And I could tell you like, yo, you're off. or no, that's not what it's about. But that's getting into the deeper, that's breaking has to stop being so surface level. It has to, I think it has to get to that theater world in order to be profitable, for it to be sustainable for all the dancers.
Yeah, or I think like theater is one of those aspects, but I think it comes back to like how is breaking or street dance in general, but breaking was like, I guess, the biggest, had that big push in the 80s or whatever, and that's the public perception that's stuck around, is like, yeah, it's a bunch of tricks, you just do a bunch of tricks and stuff, and it's like, it's a fad. So anyone who does it is like, oh, you're still doing that fad, right? Whatever. And again, to me, like, the part of the solution is helping to change that public perception of, it's not just for dancers, it's something that dance is something that people do, and if you can, that's how you appeal it to a wider audience, to a more general crowd, and you can still have the specialists of, I do breaking, I do this, I do whatever, but it's like getting people to appreciate dance outside of the athleticism, or the like what you were talking about of like, oh, it's just an artist thing, like, yeah, they're like crumpling up paper or something like that, and then throwing it around and like skipping around, and like that's dance
It's
or something
art.
like that. It's art, right? Like, I'm not down with that.
That's pretentious art.
Yeah, and so you get into that of like, it's not accessible to the everyday kind of person. Like, it's gone into this weird niche area where like, but I don't think, maybe when we talk about specific styles, it's like getting into a niche, but what I'm really talking about is just dance in general, and that's like something that should appeal to almost everyone in the world. like it's, you can see it in every culture. There's
yeah,
like, people like to move, they like music, they want to move, and they want to,
if you hear any sound, like you play any sound with a child, they're going to do something. They're going to move. And I agree with you. Dance should be just an accessible, normal thing. Art in general should be a normalized thing. I think the problem.
So you see that with like sports though too. Like sports is like, and you have these things, and like, not everyone can play sports, but it's like everyone knows about sports. Everyone learns them in school and stuff, and like, yeah, they're on TV, and that's kind of like chicken or the egg. Like, are they learning about it because it's on TV, or did they know about it and there was like a culture built up about it, and then people wanted to take a chance and put it on TV, like that kind of thing. Like, I don't know which came first, but at the end of the day, there's a in general, like, a positive public perception of sports, and it's healthy competition. It's it promotes team, whatever. People can see the benefits of
unless it's golf or tennis, that's individual.
Yeah, but even then, like, okay, you have the athleticism and the competition aspect, which is whatever, and because they've gone so deep, you even have things like, and chess is like this too, where people dive into like the mental, like, sports psychology is a whole field that people study, and like, it kind of comes back to what you were saying about like what people do, and like giving it back to the community, or building a foundation. And like, in my opinion, when we're talking about that foundation, it's almost like, well, we built part of it, and then the thing crumbled, and then well, okay, well, let's try again, and we build that same part, but we only build part of it. We're not building the whole thing to support something that can actually grow, and like what you were talking about, right? So like, and it's hard. It's hard because like, well, what's the incentive for people to stay and give back to this thing when there's like, it's very unforgiving. Like, you put so much time and effort, and you sometimes get nothing out of it, or you don't get any, which is, it's an important thing in the world. It's, you don't get any like financial return on your investment of time or money or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
right?
The return on investment as an artist or a dancer, especially a dancer, is typically nothing unless you are trying to again be a commercial dancer. The return on investment is a different thing. I think the problem is sports back then, whenever sports got popular or started picking up, business people saw that they could make money off of it. And then they started, for example, promoting it on radio, promoting it on TV, promoting it in all these things that can be exposed to the regular people. And that's where I think breaking in the Olympics can do good for breaking. It can be the gateway for people to like, yo, what is that? That's crazy. I didn't even know people were still breaking, or like, I didn't even know that was a thing. So it can open the door for them. But the thing is, unfortunately, it feels like you have to convince businesses to be like, oh, we can make money off of dance. So since we can make money off of dance, let's make it a normal thing. And the problem is they can't, except for very structured, like ballet is very structured. Like you either good or you bad, and you have to like starve yourself and do all this crazy stuff to be the best ballet dancer. But there is a set foundation in ballet where if you become the best ballet dancer, you can decide, pick and choose whatever you want to do. You are like, Michael Jordan, LeBron James of basketball, like that. It's that level of stuff. That needs to translate into our culture, into breaking. And yeah, you got to have that foundation to build the house, right? You've got to stop repeating and keep building the same foundation over and over and then stopping, like you were saying. Because every time we stop and it recesses, like it takes us back 20 years. And then next time it takes us back 30 years. And it's like, yo, what's the point? It's it's heartbreaking when you think about it that way. And then that's when I start looking at theater and ballet and all these other performers in contemporary and modern that are pretty successful. And I'm not saying successful as in, they're millionaires and make a bunch of money. I'm saying successful as in they are building a culture that normalizes dancing. They're successful in people normalizing this as arts and culture, and it's important enough to invest money in it, because the return on investment is we become higher beings. It invokes thought. It makes us think about things and internalize. It allows us to be existential about our own thoughts and feelings. Like they are successful in showing that to the people with the pockets, the people with the money, so that they can support the dancers. Breaking is always looking at the dollar in front of them. And then whoever is the OG or whoever feels like they need to get paid and they've been in the game long enough, the ego kicks in and they're like, yo, I'm gonna cash out, peace. And that's the problem, is like we're always shortchanging ourselves, like as a culture. And it's like, it's because the culture itself comes from poverty. It comes from nothing. So it's so hard when you have nothing and someone is holding $1 in front of your face to not want to take it, as opposed to be like, I can give you this dollar now, or I can give you that $1 billion 20 years from now. You may not get it, but the culture will get it. Are you okay with that?
That's the hard part, right? That's the ego part. Are you willing to sacrifice for the benefit of
maybe not even
sacrifice to build something for the future? You might not get it, but the people that come after you will benefit from it. And that's a hard thing to do, I think, or a hard pill to swallow.
I think it's a hard ask, I think, is the thing. And when people have lived a long life, there's a couple things that happen where like you're older, you have some wisdom, and you see the bigger picture, and you want to be like, yeah, I do want to do that. I actually would rather take the $1 billion for the next 2 generations after me. Or I'm an old bitter dancer, didn't get paid my whole life, always had to scrap, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this payout, and I'm gonna live, last 10 years of my life and be out. And like that's the thing. It's like it's either this or that. And it's like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
I get it.
We can get pretty philosophical with this though, because like that kind of thing, like, I think about it too with like, this was something I was really into like last year, a couple of years ago. Last year especially was just, yeah, like, yeah, what makes people do the things they do, and why people will sacrifice, they'll take less money to do something because they believe in it or whatever. And like, you know this kind of thing of what we're talking about, of like people maybe taking that financial hit to benefit the future generations or something like that, is like kind of like, what is your goal, or what is bringing you some sense of like meaning, I guess, in what you're doing, like fulfillment. What is that fulfillment coming from? Is it coming from uh financial gain, and you can support yourself, and like that's totally fine, but maybe that's kind of like short term. Once that money's gone, like you said, you got to do it again, and you got to do it again. But if you're
or not
getting
or even not even you have to do it again, but the next generation will have to do it again.
yeah,
You know what I'm
something
saying?
like that, right? But if you it's kind of like, there's this book called The Denial of Death, and just one of the things that it gets into is just like this idea of humans wanting to live forever in some sense, whether it's physically, and they research how
Become
to like
immortal.
become like bionic or something like that, or just trying to
Yeah.
cheat death, or whether it's them putting themselves into some project that whether good or bad, there's different kinds of being immortalized.
Yeah.
But
Legacy.
that's
It's
one
creating
thing.
a
Yeah, creating a
legacy.
legacy, right? So if you're willing to do that and you believe in it strongly enough, like maybe that, whether you succeed or fail or not is a different thing, but that can give your life meaning, and that can give your life purpose and something to move towards, rather than, and it's kind of coming back to a bit of that like chaos and order of like, you don't need to be like, this is the only thing that I can do, but it's like, hey, that's something that's guiding me, and it's moving my life forward, and it feels right to move towards that. It's better than just like, well, I don't know what to do, or like you just don't do it, so that you don't do anything. Nothing matters. Nothing is important. Like, or I don't even know what's important, so I just won't do anything. Like that's like horrible in my opinion. It's better to kind of like do something and figure it out along the way and adapt it as it goes, and you can figure it out and see if it's right or wrong and shift. But yeah, it's like,
I think
are
it's
people
about
willing to sacrifice to create that
for
legacy,
the
I
bigger
guess?
picture.
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to, but the thing is, like, I guess I'll play devil's advocate. Like, the common thing that happens towards the end of like a dancer's career is like, you're bitter. You're just like that bitter old dancer that never won anything, never got the fame, never got the notoriety, et cetera, et cetera. And so like all those negative things that hit you, because maybe you have a sense of regret or a sense of failure. Because again, our measurement of success is 3, 2, 1, and 3 judges you telling you either win or you lose, right?
Yeah.
Like on an interpretive, very subjective, form of dance. Dance in general is subjective, but with breaking also having a very loosely foundation, to just be kind of like shattered over and over when you don't win those competitions or you don't find yourself being successful. How can you not just turn around and be like, yo, I'm going to get paid?
Yeah.
You know, screw you because you never supported me. You know, that's I guess the devil's advocate is like the angry, bitter dancers that feel like they've been slighted are now slighting the previous generation.
But to me, like, that comes down to, it's kind of one of the reasons why I made this recent video about like, why do people dance? Why do you dance? Like, what's your reason? And I think that's something that, you know, when you get to, if you get to those points where you feel like you've been slighted, that you didn't make it, or you didn't, whatever, you keep losing these things, like, part of that, is like, well, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. But also part of it is like, well, maybe I need to shift my priority, shift my focus, and then maybe I can enjoy what I'm doing. And that's like not a dance thing. That's like anything. Like, you work a quote unquote shit job and you are struggling to pay your bills. Well, maybe it's because the job is shit and maybe it doesn't pay enough. But also maybe it's the lifestyle that you're living that's outside of your means, and maybe that's the thing that's got to change. Or, you know, it's the attitude that you have towards it, of like there's a great book that I recommend to anyone that's called Drive, the reason why we do what we do, or something like that. I can't remember, but it's good. It's a
what a great intro to the book. Yeah, it's something like that.
Like, that's the title. I can't remember exactly what the subtitle is. but you know, they get into that kind of thing of like, what brings people satisfaction. And like flow, this is kind of how I discovered the book about flow, like the book Flow, is this kind of thing, that someone can work some menial job that someone else might just look down on because it doesn't have that same status, but they can potentially be more fulfilled from that job just because of their attitude towards it, their mental approach towards it. And it's like, it's that kind of thing of like, well, happiness, what brings you happiness, what brings you fulfillment, is really relative. And like, part of what makes us so interesting is like, we create our, it's getting into, this is where it gets into like philosophy and stuff. It's like, we're creating our own realities of what's enjoyable for us and what's not enjoyable, and it's all in our perception of things, and all in our the way that our mental images of what's important and what's not. And those things are totally malleable, and they can shift and change over time, and you should look back and address things that, or reevaluate things and that kind of thing. And obviously there's some things that are horrible, like getting, I don't know, like shot or something like that. Like that sucks, right? That's objectively a bad thing. But this is the weird thing, is like, you can have something horrible like that happen, or someone can grow up poor, and that can be something that they use as fuel to shift them into
exactly
direction. And like,
it goes back to what you're saying, like perception, because like, terrible example, but you know, if someone got shot and the perception, obviously the perception of that at that time is terrible. And if you survive that, and then like, it shifts your mindset, it shifts your perception. Your perception is like, oh, I need to go 100%. I need to go at any time I can, you know. I can't just, I have to live life at my fullest. I almost lost everything. So it could change your perception of like what life really means to you. And you can value life more in that, you know, in that terrible example.
No, but it's,
it's true though. I feel like a lot of times when people find breaking, there's an introduction of glamour and glitz that everyone likes, and the athleticism, and that's great. And then a lot of times we also find breaking at a young age, so we're pretty immature, you know, like, you know, our reasoning for breaking is probably like very young. So then like when we get older and we learn more, it's always a good time to recalibrate and to evaluate, okay, why am I still dancing? Do I love dancing? Or what drives me and what motivates me to keep dancing? And then it's nice to do that every few years, because like, I haven't told a lot of people this, but like a few years back, it's like, I hate it. Every time I went to a jam, like I hate break jams. They're boring. And then like it made me hate breaking. I didn't even like breaking it for a while because like it was redundant. It was the same. It was surface level. It was bullshit. Like it was all a facade, veneer. There was no content, no context for feeling and emotion anymore. So then I was getting real bitter, and I kind of like just stepped back, and like I was like, I don't even want to enter competitions. I kind of just want to go. I want to still support everyone that still goes, pay my entry fee, try to help the people throwing the jams and all that stuff. But for me, I was finding just moving, dance, motion, movement, not even putting a label on it, was more enjoyable. And it's like listening to different types of music, like just being completely open to like random like theater music to ambient music to lo-fi music to everything, classical music. Like I was just listening to things and I would just move according to how I felt. And it was bringing that nostalgic feeling of when I first found breaking. And then that's where like I had, again, a situation where it's like I had to recalibrate. Why do I like breaking? Why do I love breaking? And I think that that's something that also needs to be an educational piece where you tell, like imagine if you're teaching a kid that's 5 and then at 10, 12 years old, he's about to hit puberty, he's going to start maturing, you have to teach or educate that kid to evaluate and be like, yo, do you still want to do this? Do you like breaking? Do you like dancing? And if so, why? Write it down, or talk about it, whatever the case is. And then another 10 years or another 5 years, do the same thing. And then it's like, you create a roadmap of like your mind's attitude towards a passion, and you don't get lost in the politics of breaking, the purpose of like if breaking should be in Olympics or if it shouldn't be, because your center, why you're dancing. It doesn't even matter. It's like I could be like, yo, breaking Olympics is whack. I don't even care, because I am at peace with what breaking means to me. People that get emotional and they want to like rant about whatever, it's like, okay, stop and pause real quick and evaluate with yourself. Like, why are you so passionate about against breaking going in this direction? And if you can't answer that for yourself, then it's like, well, I feel like you shouldn't even be saying anything, because again, the ones that are pushing it in that direction are actually making moves. Movers and shakers are making the moves to go into that direction. And you're sitting here complaining. You complaining because of your ego, because you can't win, or you complain because you don't even know what you want to do with breaking.
Yeah. Or it's not even about winning, but it's like you're not the person that's sitting at the table making the decisions or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like you're not in the picture. You're not the protagonist, or you're the antagonist. Or
but again, it comes back to that ego thing.
Character. Exactly. Like again, it comes back to ego and perception. So your perception is like, oh, I'm the main character of this story, and I'm supposed to be the winner of this jam at X, Y, and Z. And it's like, guess what? You can't even win a local jam. So you ain't the main character. So now you're feeling sad. And you don't even know what to do. And then you gotta self-evaluate and be like, okay, am I breaking because I just want this fame? Or because I have this silly idea that I am like, a hero main character in this story? Or do I really love breaking and it doesn't even matter?
or do I got to humble myself and actually put in some work to get better or learn more or something like,
or I'm just whack and I
yeah,
need to
or
step back.
Sometimes that's what it is. But yeah,
and it's okay to be whack. It's
yeah,
like it's okay to not be good.
yeah.
But the thing is, you have to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I think is more important.
Yeah.
You could be the wackest dancer, but if you're happy, hey man.
Yeah. Well, that's the sense of real community. Is like, it's kind of right now, if you're in the community, you're at this certain level of breaking or something like that. And really, it should just be like, yo, you love breaking too? Oh, that's dope. Like, and let's share in this circle. Like, oh, maybe the person's kind of whack. Like, oh, hey, let me show you something, like, or something like that. Like that's where this real community and like actual culture comes in. It's kind of what you were talking about before, of just like breaking is sometimes just so surface level, and it's like no one digs deeper. Everyone's just concerned about like who's winning the competition, who created this move or who this style or something like that. And it's like no one wants to dig a little deeper, go deeper, and create real understanding and real culture and things that, and then even take the time to pass that knowledge on. And that's how you get real progress, is like building on the previous knowledge. And like that's real culture. That's like ideas and stories and things that get passed on generation from generation. And like when you're too focused on just this surface level of that's my move or something like that, or so and so won this competition,
or I'm too good. Like,
yeah,
I don't need
like,
your advice.
Yeah, I need your advice. Like, it's hilarious when I hear the thing of like always be a student, because I feel like there's just so few people that actually live that. But it's such a big thing in the breaking community. It's like you hear everyone say it, but I feel like so many people don't follow that.
Yeah, but I mean, even if like you find someone that loves breaking and you're just like, oh, that's dope, or let's cipher, or let's get down.
Mm-hmm.
I even feel like even if they get down and they're whack, I even feel like who am I to judge? Like, yo, do your thing.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you're trash and you bring it up and you ask me for something or ask for input, then I'll give you my input.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, I'm not even going to interject on whatever you spazzing out over there and having a good time. Like, who am I to say, yo, bro, that's not breaking. Like, I'm not going to be the gatekeeper to like what people feel.
Yeah. Like that's part of the ego thing too, of like, when I come back to that idea of like dance as a culture that people understand and whatever. And like, this kind of mentality is probably just always going to exist, of just people dealing with their own ego and their own sense of self and whatever. But when you see someone, like, it's kind of funny, like those moments when someone just lets go, whether they know how to dance or not, like, but when you see those moments of someone just letting go, like that's a really special thing. And it's like what you said, like who am I to really clown on them for doing that? Like that's such a, like, are they enjoying themselves? Are they enjoying the music and they're moving? Damn, that's pretty cool thing. And like that's actually really hard to do, because they're at a point where they don't maybe know that they look maybe goofy or whatever. They're just letting go and having fun. And that's so pure and so uncommon, that so many people that are dancers, like, you've built up this idea of what it's supposed to be like, and it's so hard to really just let go and move in a more pure way and free way. And that's what, coming back to like what Ramon said of like, I just want to be free. That's what freedom is, like, is free from judgment, free from whatever people telling you it's supposed to be like this, or yourself telling yourself what it's supposed to be like, and just moving freely. That's true freedom. Like, and that's so hard to do.
Well, it's funny too because like it's hard to do,
It's hard and it's
but
not
then when
hard
you
to do.
well no, it's hard to do, and it's when you see like a novice or someone who doesn't really break, and you see that is in that moment, and let's say they just don't have the foundation, they don't have whatever beginning pieces to put together, something that's understandable as breaking, you still see the spark. You still see like, oh shit, he's vulnerable. He's being his most honest self, and it's a magical moment.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the same moments that all of us try to get when we're in a cipher, when we're in a battle, when we're in a competition. So like, when I see someone who doesn't know shit about breaking and have that honest moment, I'm like, yo, I want that when I hear this song.
Yeah.
So it's going back to like, again, we box ourselves in where I'm like, hey, I want to be free, but I can't be free because I keep building up this structure and putting myself in a box. When in fact, when I first got into dancing, it's like just letting go, just like this kid or whoever.
Yeah.
And just like letting them express themselves, and then just being, I actually just get envious like when they have those moments. I'm like, fuck man, like I want that. I want that.
Yeah.
You don't understand. Like sometimes you get in your own head and you can't find it anymore. You can't find those magical moments.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like gems, and you always want to cherish them. So that's why, like, even when I see people bug out and like they may not have the structure or understanding of breaking, but I see the purity and the honesty and authenticity of themselves, I'm just like, yeah, it's fresh. I don't even care. I don't even care.
Yeah. That might be a good spot to put a bookmark in it, and we'll come back to this at some other point. But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time and chatting.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Sharing your thoughts.
Are we still live? Yo, what?
Yeah. Actually, there's some Patreon only stuff that we're gonna do after, just for a bit if you have time. But for the podcast, we're just gonna like cut it here. Yeah, if people want to get that extra Patreon stuff, just come support the channel, support the podcast, and support Ash's Patreon and what he's doing, is his blog, Medium, and stuff like that, and everything else.
I moved off Medium.
Oh, did you?
So like, yeah, it's all on my own website. So like,
nice.
Yeah, I do my own blogs and my own writing on there.
Nice.
A lot of that is more in depth, not just like it. A lot of it's based around dancing, but it's also more as a person,
Yeah, I've read some of your stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to spark people to think a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Just get more cerebral about like life and all that. So
it's necessary, and especially in breaking, like we said, it's very surface level. Yeah. But anyway, if you want to let people know where they can find you and support, whatever.
Oh yeah. So if all of you guys leave this Patreon and just join mine, no, I'm just
playing. Hey, as long as someone's getting supported, I don't care.
No, real talk. There's actually we have some crossover. We have like some similar supporters. So like, first of all, like thank you for supporting me and also Dean. But yeah, I'm on Patreon. I do a lot more writing. I do videos as well. I'm not touching the podcast. I'm gonna let Dean kind of like take over that area for breaking.
I just like talking, so.
I don't like the sound of my voice, but I'm trying to get better at it. So
you get used to it.
But yeah, I'm at, my thing's just complexbreaks.com. You can find me on Complex Ash on all my handles, I guess. And yeah, man, like stuff like this is really important. Like you said, documenting and taking advantage of the technology we have to have this history to pass down to other generations. It's really important.
Cool. Well, yeah, hopefully sometime down the road we can do this again. I feel like, yeah, you're one, you know, some people you talk to and it doesn't
They're
flow as
surface level.
smoothly. It's not necessarily surface level, but maybe you just don't know them that well, or you're just not as comfortable with them and you can't get as deep. But yeah, you're one of the people that I feel fortunate enough to know on a deeper level, I guess, and we can talk about these, or maybe we're just similar in what we're interested in. Because like we were talking
I
for
think it might be
almost 3 hours, I think, or
yeah.
something like that, or 2.5, or I don't know.
I know that like sometimes I tend to talk people's ears off too, because like I know I did a podcast with someone from here, and we weren't even talking about podcasts. He was just asking me questions about breaking. We were just talking, and then he's like, "Yo, this conversation's crazy. Do you want to do a podcast? You know, and it'd be really great." And
Yeah.
it's just something that I'm really passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because it's like, you know, the surface level cool moves, or like the fact that I've been doing it for so long, but I don't know, it's just like my mental well-being. Like breaking a lot of times is like saved my sanity in a lot of
Yeah,
different
100%
situations.
know that
Yeah.
firsthand experience.
So it's, yeah, man, it's like, it's something that's I think people may be a little bit hesitant to talk about, or like maybe don't know how to talk about it, because everyone gets kind of like stuck on like, you know, the moves. But these deeper conversations, I think, is what starts elaborating and really talking about culture and what it means for a lot of us, especially in our generation, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. Anyway, so we'll cut it there, and thanks everybody for listening, or if you're watching, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll catch you later. Peace.
Peace.
Now